The morning sky over Seoul turned black as massive ships descended from space. Captain Kim Tae-ho stood in the Defense Ministry's command center, watching through the windows as alien vessels the size of mountains blocked out the sun. The same scene was happening in every major city across the planet. "Sir, we're getting a message on all radio and television channels," said Lieutenant Park Jun. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly as she worked at her control station. The main screen in the command center flickered and came to life. An alien face appeared, something with 6 eyes that blinked one after another. It was tall, with gray skin and a mouthful of sharp teeth. This was Ambassador Veltar of the Corvani Empire. The creature spoke in perfect Korean first, then switched to English, then to every human language on Earth at the same time. Its voice was cold, a mechanical primitive species of Earth. "I am Veltar. I speak for the galactic hegemony. Your world has been chosen to join our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Accept your new role as servants, and we will not hurt you too much. Refuse, and we will kill every living thing on your planet." In the presidential palace, President Lee Min-ho sat in an emergency meeting room. Holographic screens showed him connected to world leaders from every nation. The weight of 7 billion human lives felt heavy on his shoulders. Everyone was talking at once, but their voices were filled with fear. "They're treating us like wild animals," whispered Prime Minister Choi Hai-jin from her location in London. Captain Kim Tae-ho, who was also connected to the meeting, spoke quietly but firmly. "No, they're treating us like slaves. That's much worse than animals." The alien's message ended, and a countdown timer appeared on every screen on Earth. 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 47 seconds. The numbers kept dropping, second by second, while world leaders argued and debated what to do. Something very different was happening in secret locations around the world. Deep underground beneath Seoul, Moscow, Washington, and Beijing, other meetings were taking place. Dr. Song Yana stood in a hidden bunker, filled with the most advanced technology on Earth. Around her, teams of engineers and weapons specialists worked at computer terminals that glowed with blue light. The air hummed with the sound of powerful machines. "Project Prometheus is ready," she announced to her team. "All defensive systems are online and waiting for orders. The question is, are we ready to pay the price for freedom?" And soldiers around her nodded grimly. They all knew what the price might be. They had been preparing for this day for years, ever since the first alien signals were detected at the edge of the solar system. Above ground, people in the streets looked up at the alien ships with terror. Some ran to their homes. Others stood, frozen, unable to move, but many more began moving with purpose, heading to predetermined locations. These people had been secretly trained for this moment. The countdown timer continued its relentless march. 71 hours, 32 minutes, and 15 seconds. 71 hours, 32 minutes, and 14 seconds. 71:3:13, ... in the command bunker. Dr. Song Yana walked between rows of computers and weapon systems. Everything was ready. Hidden missile sites around the world were powered up. Secret shield generators were warming up. Most importantly, millions of civilians were quietly moving into hardened shelters that the aliens didn't know existed. Doctor called out Major Park Hyun-woo from his station. "All global defense networks are reporting ready status, receiving confirmation from every continent." Dr. Song Yuna nodded. She looked at the countdown timer on her own screens. The aliens thought they were giving humanity time to surrender. Instead, they were giving humanity time to prepare for war. "They made a mistake," she said to her team. "They assumed we would be afraid. They assumed we would give up our freedom to save our lives." Captain Kim Tae-ho's voice came through the communication system from his command center above. "All units, this is Captain Kim. The aliens have given us a choice. We know what our answer will be." The alien ships continued to hover over Earth's cities, their massive forms casting shadows over millions of people, but beneath the surface, in bunkers and hidden facilities, Humanity was getting ready to show these invaders something they had never seen before. The countdown continued, 71 to 1533. 71 hours, 15 minutes, and 32 seconds.
Ow.
71 hours, 15 minutes, and 31 seconds. Dr. Songyana smiled coldly as she watched the numbers drop. "Let them count down," she said. "When that timer reaches 0, they're going to learn what happens when you threaten human freedom." Around the world, other teams and other bunkers were making final preparations. Weapons that had never been tested in real combat were being loaded. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment were taking their positions. The aliens thought they were giving humanity an ultimatum. Instead, they had given humanity exactly what it needed: time to prepare for the fight of their lives. The countdown timer continued its march toward 0. And with each passing second, humanity grew more ready for war. With exactly 1 hour and 1 minute left on the countdown timer, something amazing happened across the entire planet. Every human leader on Earth stepped in front of cameras at the exact same moment. President Lee Min-ho stood in his office in Seoul, looking directly into the camera. His voice was steady and strong, without any fear. "Citizens of Earth, we have heard what the aliens want from us. Our answer is simple: no." At that exact same second, Prime Minister Choi Hae-jin appeared on screens in London. She spoke in English with the same calm voice. "No." In Berlin, Chancellor Han Dae-jung said the same word in German, 9. All around the world, every president, prime minister, and leader said the same thing in their own language: French, Spanish, Japanese, Arabic, Russian. In hundreds of other languages, the word "no" was spoken at exactly the same time. The alien ships floating above Earth's cities received all these broadcasts. On the main hegemony flagship, Admiral Korthavel watched the human messages with growing confusion. He was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin like metal. His large eyes blinked slowly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. "They cannot be serious," he said to his officers. "Do they not understand that we can destroy them all? Why are they not begging for mercy?" One of his aides, a smaller alien with tentacles instead of arms, moved closer to whisper urgently. "Sir, our sensors are picking up strange energy readings from all over the planet. It looks like hidden machines are turning on." Aliens had expected to see humans crying, panicking, or at least trying to negotiate for better terms. Instead, they were watching something they had never seen before: an entire species working together perfectly when facing death. Deep underground in his secret bunker, Colonel Jan Woo-jin sat at a massive control panel covered with lights and switches. He had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. Now it was time. "All stations around the world, this is Central Command," he spoke into his microphone. "Execute Protocol Unity. Repeat, execute Protocol Unity." Immediately, things began happening all over Earth. In the Pacific Ocean, huge metal platforms rose up from the deep water. These had been hidden on the ocean floor for years, waiting for this day. Similar platforms emerged from the Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic Oceans. Around every major city, the ground began to glow with a soft blue light. Shield generators that had been built in secret came to life, creating invisible barriers of energy to protect the people inside. But the most important thing was happening with the people themselves. In every city, town, and village, millions of humans began moving in an organized way. They weren't running in panic. Instead, they walked quickly and quietly to special shelters that had been built over many years. These people had been secretly trained for this moment. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. Parents carried their children, helping elderly neighbors, but no one was screaming or crying. Everyone moved with purpose. Dr. Songyana stood in her underground command center watching dozens of computer screens that showed what was happening around the world. Green lights were appearing everywhere as defensive systems came online. "They gave us a choice between freedom and slavery," she said to her team of scientists and soldiers. "They won't like the choice we made." The ocean platforms were now fully raised, revealing massive weapons that pointed toward space. The city's shields were growing stronger every second. Most importantly, Almost every human civilian was now safely underground in shelters that could survive almost any attack. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Cortavel was no longer confused. He was becoming worried. His sensors were showing him that Earth was not the primitive world he had expected. "Sir," another aide reported, "we're detecting weapon systems that are almost as advanced as ours." "How is this possible?" The Admiral's forearms moved nervously. They were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to surrender. What kind of species chooses to fight when they could live as servants? On Earth, Captain Kim Taho watched his computer screens from his command center. The alien fleet above Seoul was starting to change formation. The ships were spreading out, preparing for battle instead of a simple occupation. "Perfect," he said with a cold smile. "Let them prepare for war. They've been preparing for this day much longer than they realize." The countdown timer now showed less than 1 hour remaining. 0 hours, 58 minutes, and 43 seconds. 0 hours, 58 minutes, and 42 seconds. 0:58 to 41, ... But the timer didn't matter anymore. The aliens had expected to spend these final minutes listening to humans beg for mercy. Instead, they were watching a planet transform itself into a fortress. The humans had not just rejected the ultimatum, they had turned it into a declaration of war. Dr. Song Nun looked at her screens one more time. Every system was ready. Every weapon was loaded. Every civilian was protected. "Let's show them what happens when you threaten humanity's freedom," she said quietly. The aliens were about to learn that humans were not primitive servants. They were warriors who would rather die fighting than live as slaves. When the sun rose over Seoul, the alien attack began. Bright beams of plasma energy shot down from the huge ships in space, aimed at what the aliens thought were Earth's most important military buildings. The beams hit their targets perfectly, creating massive explosions that could be seen for miles. On the alien flagship, a tactical officer with 3 eyes watched his screens carefully. "Direct hit on Seoul's government district," he reported to Admiral Corthovel. "The building is completely destroyed." Admiral Corthovel moved his forearms in what passed for satisfaction among his species. "Excellent. The humans will see. That resistance is useless. They will—" His words stopped suddenly as bright flashes erupted from the Han River below. Quantum torpedoes, more advanced than anything the aliens expected from Earth, shot upward and struck 3 of the admirals' escort ships. The vessels exploded in brilliant balls of fire. But something even more shocking happened next. The destroyed government building began to flicker like a broken television screen, then disappeared completely. What had been a holographic projection, a fake image designed to fool the aliens. "Impossible," Admiral Corthovel whispered, his large eyes wide with surprise. "How did they create such advanced illusions?" Suddenly, a human voice came through the alien communication system. This should have been impossible because alien technology was supposed to be completely secure. But somehow, the humans had broken through their most advanced encryption. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral," said Colonel Jang Woojin's calm voice. "You wanted to see how humans fight? Let us show you." What happened next was unlike any battle the aliens had ever experienced. The humans did not fight in the way civilized species were supposed to fight. They did not follow the normal rules of war that every other species in the galaxy respected. Instead, swarms of small robot drones filled the air around the alien ships. These drones were controlled by artificial intelligence that learned and adapted every second. When the aliens shot down one group of drones, the next group already knew how to avoid those same weapons. The humans also used cyber warfare, turning the aliens' own computer systems against them. Alien ships suddenly found their weapons firing at each other instead of at Earth targets. Navigation systems began showing false information, causing ships to crash into each other. Major Park Hyun-woo led a team of human soldiers in an attack that seemed completely crazy. Using nothing but modified construction equipment and weapons made from spare parts, they managed to capture an entire alien transport ship. "Sir, we've taken control of their atmospheric processors," Major Park reported. Over the radio to his commanders, "What should we do with them?" Dr. Song Yuna's voice came back immediately, cold and determined. "Turn them into bombs." If they want to take our world, they can have it in pieces. The aliens had better technology and more ships, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to follow any rules. The humans used tactics that seemed insane. They would sacrifice their own equipment to destroy alien machines. They would pretend to retreat and attack from unexpected directions. Captain Kim Tae-ho coordinated the human forces from his underground command bunker. He watched on his screens as human soldiers made the aliens pay a terrible price for every small victory. Even when the aliens captured a building or a street, they found that the humans had booby-trapped everything. "They're not trying to win in the traditional sense," observed the hegemony's intelligence officer, a creature with tentacles. "Instead of arms, they're trying to make victory so costly that we'll give up." This observation would prove to be very accurate. As the first day of fighting ended, the aliens had managed to take control of several major cities around the world. But each victory felt empty and meaningless. In every captured city, the humans had destroyed anything useful before retreating. There were no resources to steal, no technology to study, no people to enslave. The aliens found themselves controlling empty ruins filled with traps and explosives. Worse, human attacks never stopped. Even in cities the aliens thought they controlled, human soldiers would appear suddenly, attack an alien position, then disappear again. The aliens never felt safe, never felt like they had truly won anything. Admiral Korthavel stood in his command center. Looking at reports from all over the planet, his forces were winning every battle, but somehow it felt like they were losing the war. "Sir," his aide reported nervously, "we're receiving casualty reports from all fronts. The humans are making us pay for every meter of ground." The admiral's metal-like skin seemed to grow darker. "How many ships have we lost?" 47, sir." And the humans seemed to be getting stronger, not weaker. As night fell over the battlefields of Earth, the aliens began to understand something terrifying about their enemy. The humans had demonstrated something that chilled the hegemony to their core. They would rather die fighting than live as slaves. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Other species would surrender when faced with superior force. But the humans seemed to grow more dangerous the more desperate they became. The aliens were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake by threatening humanity's freedom. By the third day of fighting, the aliens finally understood what they were really facing. They were not fighting against a primitive species with simple weapons. They were fighting against something much more dangerous, an idea. The idea that freedom was worth any price, even death. Dr. Song Yena stood in her underground command center, looking at the screens that showed soul burning above them. Smoke and fire covered the city she had grown up in. But her face showed no sadness, only cold determination. "Execute Scorched Earth Protocol." She ordered her team without any hesitation in her voice. Immediately, signals went out to every human settlement on Earth. What happened next would shock the aliens completely. All across the planet, humans began destroying their own cities, their own factories, their own power plants. In Tokyo, workers set off explosives in car factories rather than let the aliens use them. In London, engineers caused power plants to overload and explode. In New York, computer experts deleted every database, every piece of information that might be useful to the invaders. The message was clear. If Earth was going to burn, it would. Burn by human hands, not alien ones. But the physical destruction was only the beginning of humanity's plan. Captain Kim Tae-ho activated what would become the aliens' worst nightmare, information warfare. "Lieutenant Park Ji-yoon," he called to his communications officer. "Broadcast all the navigation data to every resistance cell we can contact. I want every alien world location, every supply route, every weakness in their defenses sent out across the galaxy." Lieutenant Park Ji-yoon's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Sir, we're sending the data now. Every rebel group in the galaxy will know where to find the hegemony's weak points." This was the hegemony's greatest fear coming true. Years they had conquered other species and forced them to work as slaves. These conquered peoples had been waiting for a chance to fight back, but they had never known how to hurt their oppressors. Now, suddenly, they had detailed information, about every hegemony world, every military base, every supply ship route. The humans were giving away all the intelligence they had gathered, turning the war from a single-planet conflict into a galaxy-wide revolution. The 12-world empire that had seemed so strong just days before began to crack and fall apart. On planet after planet, slave species rose up against their hegemony masters. Armed with human intelligence about where to strike, President Lee Min-ho spoke from a mobile command center that moved constantly to avoid alien attacks. His message was broadcast not just to Earth, but to every oppressed species in the galaxy. "We're not the first world they have conquered," he said, his voice strong despite the explosions that could be heard in the background. "But we will be the last. Freedom is not something you can negotiate. It is something you must fight for." On the alien flagship, Admiral Korthovel watched his empire fall apart as reports came in from across the galaxy. His forearms moved nervously as he read message after message of rebellion and defeat. "Sir," his aide reported with fear in his voice, "the humans are no longer just defending Earth. They're attacking our civilian populations on the homeworlds." The Admiral's large eyes widened in shock. Impossible. How did they get ships capable of interstellar travel? "They're using our own captured vessels, sir. And they're not fighting like civilized beings. They're targeting non-military targets." The humans had become something terrifying in their desperation. They were no longer fighting just to protect Earth. They were fighting to make sure that, if humanity died, the entire galactic hegemony would die with them. Major Park Hyun-woo, who had started the war as a simple soldier, now commanded a fleet of captured alien ships. He had learned to pilot them using stolen alien technology and pure human determination. He sent a message directly to Admiral Korthovel's flagship. "You gave us a choice between slavery and death. We chose to burn rather than serve. Now we're sharing the fire with you." The aliens watched in horror as their own ships, now controlled by humans, attacked hegemony colonies. The humans didn't follow the normal rules of war. They didn't try to capture territory or resources. They simply destroyed everything they could find. On planet after planet, alien cities burned. The humans had learned that if they were going to lose everything, they would make sure their enemies lost everything to Dr. Song. Yana received reports of the attacks from her command center. "Good," she said coldly. "Let them feel what we feel. Let them watch their worlds burn." The war had become something beyond what anyone had imagined. It was no longer about Earth surrendering or the aliens conquering. It had become about who would be left standing when the burning stopped. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought they were attacking a weak, primitive species. Instead, they had awakened. Something that would rather destroy the entire galaxy than accept slavery, the humans had chosen to burn. And now they were making sure everyone burned with them. The underground bunker hummed with nervous energy as Dr. Song Yuna stared at the massive screen showing Earth from space. 12 red dots blinked on the star map, each one marking an alien homeworld that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Today, humanity would strike them all at once. "All teams report ready," came voices from around the galaxy. Human soldiers, many of them former prisoners, waited in stolen alien ships near each target world. With them fought alien rebel species that had suffered under hegemony rule for generations and now saw their chance for freedom. Song's fingers trembled as she reached for the communication device. Above her, the ruins of Seoul lay buried under tons of concrete and metal. The city where she had once taught children about the stars was now a graveyard. But from this tomb, humanity would deliver its final blow. "This is Dr. Song to all strike teams," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Operation Prometheus begins now. Show them what happens when you threaten our home." Across the galaxy, human forces attacked. They used the aliens' own weapons against them, turned their technology into instruments of revenge. The hegemony had taught humanity well, perhaps too well. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Korthovel watched in horror as reports flooded in. The humans were not just attacking military targets. They were destroying everything: cities, colonies, entire worlds. The species he had dismissed as primitive animals were systematically tearing apart an empire that had stood for millennia.
Admiral.
His communication officer said, voice shaking, "We're receiving a transmission from Earth." Screen flickered to life, showing a human face marked by battle scars. President Lee Min-ho looked directly at the camera, his eyes cold and unforgiving. "Admiral Korthavel," the human leader said. The alien commander's throat felt dry. Around him, his bridge crew watched in silence as their worlds burned on the tactical displays. "You offered us a choice once," President Lee continued. "Surrender or face annihilation. Now I'm offering you the same choice. You have 72 hours to withdraw all forces from human space and return to your homeworlds. Refuse and we will finish what you started." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Korthavel stared at the blank screen, understanding finally settling over him like a heavy blanket. They had not conquered humanity, they had created monsters. Captain Kim Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of the human, watching as alien vessels began their retreat from Earth's orbit. The enemy fleet that had once seemed unstoppable now fled like frightened animals. But victory felt hollow as he looked down at his scarred homeworld. Captain Lieutenant Park Jun said quietly, joining him at the window, "The aliens are broadcasting their surrender on all frequencies. The war is over." Kim nodded slowly. Through the ship's thick windows, he could see Earth turning below them. Where once green continents and blue oceans had sparkled, now only brown and gray remained. Smoke still rose from the ruins of great cities. The planet that had given birth to humanity was dying. Was it worth it? Park asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kim was quiet for a long moment. In the distance, he could see the sun rising. Over the Terminator line, painting the devastated Earth in shades of orange and red. "Ask me in 100 years, he finally said. When children are born free instead of as slaves." The retreat was swift and complete. Within days, the last alien ship had jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth's system forever. They left behind a world in ruins, but also something else, a legend that would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Dr. Song emerged from her bunker to find Seoul transformed into a wasteland of twisted metal and broken stone. But already, human survivors were at work, clearing rubble and planning reconstruction. In the distance, she could see the framework of new buildings rising from the ashes. The aliens had learned too late that some species could not be conquered, only destroyed. And humanity had proven that even destruction was preferable to slavery. The price of freedom had been paid in blood and ash. But it was a price they had chosen willingly. As she walked through the ruins of her city, Song thought about the future. Earth would heal slowly and painfully. Children would be born who knew nothing of alien masters or the taste of chains. They would grow up free, and that freedom would be worth every sacrifice. The war was over, but its echoes would ring through history. Other species would remember the humans who chose to burn rather than bow, who preferred to rule over ashes than kneel on gold. And in that memory, humanity had found its greatest victory, not just freedom, but the terrible respect that comes from being feared. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.